Good morning, algebra classes. It is our last day before spring break. So even though we don't get to go anywhere, we don't have to do any homework for the next week after we do our last work today. So to review what we've been doing the last 2 weeks is graphing parabolas. Every single time you graph a parabola, you can use an XY chart or a T chart. However, if your vertex is somewhere like -50, 7, it will take you a very, very, very long time to go all the way down to -50 and get that graph going. So we are going to review our key points. Our vertex is a key point. X-intercepts are key points. You might have none, you might have one, or you might have two. Your y-intercept, you'll always have one, and your line of symmetry is what splits your parabola in half. So this is already in standard form. Standard form is y equals ax squared plus bx plus c, where c is a constant. So you have to know standard form. You have to know the formula for vertex is x equals -b over 2a. Starting with this problem, y equals -x squared minus 8x. Oops, I really want this to be -7, or we're going to get not what I want. -7. We can see our vertex is going to be x equals, if our a is -1, b is -8, c is -7, we are going to get the opposite of -8, which is 8, over 2 times a, which is -1. That gives us 8 over -2. That gives us -4. So x equals -4. To figure out the y value of our vertex, we are going to take this -4 and plug it in to our original equation. Y equals negative, and then this has to go in parentheses. -4 squared minus 8 times -4 minus 7. So that gives us -16, -8 times -4 is +32 minus 7. -16 and +32 is 16. 16 minus 7 is 9. So our vertex is going to be -4, 9. Our y-intercept. The y-intercept comes from plugging 0 in for what? If you plug 0 in for x, you'll find your y-intercept. Every single time, your y-intercept is the c value. Because if you put 0 in here, 0 in here, you end up with just -7. So our y-intercept is 0, -7. Our line of symmetry is right here. All this comes from standard form. To get your x-intercepts, we plug in 0 for y. In this case, we want to factor this right here because factored form is easier. So if you remember, hopefully you remember, when you have a negative, what do we want to factor out as our GCF? -1 comes out. We get x squared plus 8x plus 7. We factor this. What times what is 7? That adds up to 8. 7's prime, so it's just 7 and 1. So our factored form, we get x plus 7 times x plus 1 equals 0. what can we plug in here to get 0? -1. What can we plug in here to get 0? -7. So our x-intercepts are going to be -7, 0, -1, 0. So when we go to graph this, I have a different setup for the graphing. When we go to graph this, all of our information's already here. -7, 0 is an x-intercept. -1, 0 is an x-intercept. Our y-intercept was -7. I will do that one in red. Our y-intercept is -7. Our vertex was -4 and 9 all the way up here. So this is going to be our parabola. It's going to open down, and we know it opens down because it starts with a -x². We know -7 is our y-intercept. I didn't draw it perfectly right there, but our shape is going to be the parabola, and our line of symmetry, if we were to draw that in, it's going to go right through the vertex as a dashed line, and that's going to be x equals -4, and technically, if this is 1, 2, 3, 4 away, 1, 2, 3, 4 away would be our other point because those are symmetric. So that is a wrap up. We'll do another one that has a little bit more interesting numbers next.